Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
A new government on the horizon in the Cayman Islands, and that's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Monday, May 29. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. After a series of deals made, then broken, it appears that Alden McLaughlin will remain Premier of the Cayman Islands. Reports out of the territory indicate that McLaughlin's Progressive People's Movement, the PPM, will join forces with the Cayman Democratic Party. McLaughlin will be Premier and Bush will be Speaker of the House. The territory has been in political limbo ever since independent candidates took 9 of the 19 seats up for grabs in the May 24 vote. The incumbent PPM took 7 and the CDP won the other 3. A minimum of 10 seats was required to win the government outright. So negotiations were taking place between the independents and the political parties to decide who would lead. The latest coalition deal is similar to the first one reached last Friday and then withdrawn hours later. Bush had announced that his party had instead decided to form a government of national unity with 8 of the 9 independents who won seats in the election. Joining with him and his other 2 successful party candidates, they were to form the new government with 11 seats in the 19-member Legislative Assembly with Bush as Premier. McLaughlin's PPM was said to be in discussion with the independents who secured the majority of votes after that initial deal failed, and then another between the independents and the CDP. The death toll in Venezuela rose to at least 60 following another bloody weekend. A 20-year-old man from the opposition Popular Will Party on Sunday became the most recent person to die in a wave of anti-government protests held almost daily since the end of March. A former military man died in a separate incident on Saturday when he was attacked by a group of people in another part of the country. Attorney General Luisa Ortega has blamed military police for hundreds of injuries, while many more have been incarcerated. On Friday, riot police fired tear gas and water cannon to stop protesters from marching on a key military installation to try to sway the support of the armed forces, a key pillar of the government of Socialist President Nicolas Maduro. The opposition wants immediate presidential elections and the liberation of political prisoners. Maduro has called for a constitutional assembly, which he says calls the only path to peace. Guyana is making it clear it is taking no sides in the conflict in Venezuela, although the David Granger administration is willing to offer assistance to Caracas if needed. Despite their border dispute, it says it has no desire to compound Venezuela's problems by joining one or other of the protagonists. The Nicolas Maduro government has been under internal and external pressure, with almost daily anti-government demonstrations in recent weeks, some of which have turned deadly and violent. A statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that Venezuela's ambassador to Guyana, Reina Diaz, said her country could benefit from Guyana's support at the international level. But Vice President and Minister of Foreign Affairs Carl Greenidge urged dialogue among all stakeholders in Venezuela, including the government and the opposition. Still in Guyana, opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo is encouraging sugar workers to continue to protest government's plan to cut back on sugar production. The David Granger administration has announced plans to keep only 3 sugar estates open. The government says it has already pumped billions of dollars into the ailing industry, but the opposition leader is urging the government to keep the sector as it is. He says based on government's revenue, the money used in the bailout is not a burden to the country. The announcement of the closures has fueled protest action by sugar workers across the country. They say closing the estates will affect their livelihood and cause a decline in the economy. Sean Barak of HGP Nightly News tells us more.
An annual bailout of more than $10 billion and another $18 billion to revive the Skeldon sugar factory alone. The government has opted not to take that route to save the sugar sector. But opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo is saying that the bailout route will have little or no impact on the coffers of the state.
But that, if you look at it, it's a tiny fraction of the revenue collected so far and of the total of the 3 budgets that we have passed by this that the government passed.
Jagdeo further contends that a major problem is the government's focus on Gaisuku's indebtedness.
Gaisuku cannot be a drag on the economy or causing the problems. It is their inept policies. And that this big debt, ostensibly that the PPP left with Gaisuku, was causing the problem. Well, most of those debts were, a significant part were to government agencies. The GRA, NIS, and the others were long-term debts that were on the government's book.
Jagdeo went on to say that the government was not futuristic.
Downsizing sugar is not a plan for the future.
In the same breath, he urged sugar workers to protest against the government's plan.
That they must, everyone in the community, man, woman, and children, man, woman, children, they must all show this government their displeasure at what they're doing to destroy their livelihoods.
The failed Skeldon Sugar Modernization Project was initiated under Jagdeo's tenure as president after expending $47 billion on the Skeldon project. It failed, a situation his successor Donald Romatar during his presidency could not pull together. The sugar industry is saddled with a massive $29 billion in loans due and payable.
Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown is warning commercial banks that his administration will not bail them out if they run into trouble. Speaking in Parliament, Brown again criticized the banks for taking a risk-averse and conservative approach to lending and warned them that they could pay the price in times to come.
But when you remain so conservative in your lending and you carry all this liquidity, it's going to impact on your yield. And what it does as well, because I'm quite sure some of the very loans that may be performing now may turn bad in the future. And they may not necessarily have that type of, let's say, capital buffer because they have not maximized their profits during the period. So they are pursuing what I consider to be a conservative policy that just will not help them in the long run.
Prime Minister Brown says banks should not seek help from the government if they start struggling.
And I want to make it abundantly clear that my government for sure will not be bailing out any bank in the future. So I'm sending a clear message to the directors. Make sure you make sufficient profits to increase your buffer so you can stand whatever headwinds may come in the future, because there'll be no bailout from this government.
In Newsline, the just concluded 2017 Global Platform of Disaster Risk Reduction hailed a success. Stay with us, there's more news after this break.
Your heart to the 21st edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival from the 22nd to the 24th of June, featuring Shabba Ranks, Ultimate Rejects, The Boozman, Mobado, Jack Pure, DJ Private Riot, and back together again, Square One. Also performing Third Word, Voice, King Mighty Chalk Dust, Credence Clearwater Revisited, Ed Robinson, Ricardo Drew, Teddyson John, Felicia Ross, Brianna D, Lyrical, and Goo Goo Dolls. For more information, log on to www.stkitsmusicfestival.net.
Ready.
It's another episode. When we out on the road, this is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road.
Drink, drink, drink.
King Baba and Nikita. Hey, hey, hey. Every fat dollar boy keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, cause that's my bitch. I don't understand how wearing a name tag on me. Don't know what to say, he's still calling me wrong name.
Don't get vexed with me. Don't say that.
Chatting CARICOM, a 4-part series on the status of the regional integration process. Your chance to get answers.
We as a small island, how do we factor into that bigger picture?
Why is the process taking so long?
While there is liberty to move among the islands, you still have some level of restriction.
Chatting CARICOM also gives you updates on recent CARICOM projects.
We're seeking more and more to engage all our partners in moving forward for the development of our region.
We have come a very long way since we started.
Join the Caribbean community and CaribVision for Chatting CARICOM, a community for all. May 31st at 8 p.m. Welcome back. Andrea Grosvenor of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, is hailing the just concluded 2017 Global Platform of Disaster Risk Reduction a success. Grosvenor, who was part of the event in Cancun, Mexico, said SEDEMA attended the meeting with the aim of bringing a number of issues to the global community, and they had positive feedback.
Aspect through the comprehensive disaster management strategy that SEDEMA has developed in consultation with its partners, which preceded the Sendai Framework for Disaster Reduction. We wanted the opportunity to see the CDM strategy as well as the CDM conference being identified as the platform for reporting on Caribbean progress for the Sendai Framework for Disaster Reduction. And one of the things that we did in preparation was that we sought to harmonize and align the indicators and everything, and we will fill the CDM monitor and through that export the data to the Sendai monitor before it is launched in 2018, so it should be launched with data from the Caribbean.
Grosvenor said another item of importance they wanted to bring to the table of the global conference was the issue of financing disaster risk resilience. She said there is support for the call for debt forgiveness for Caribbean countries.
The fact is that many of our Caribbean states are highly indebted. Reports by the World Bank as well as UNDP and the CDB shows that sort of indebtedness. It also shows that a number of the development gains in the Caribbean is beginning to be eroded, and we also recognize that climate change threatens to put a lot of the states back into poverty. So along with that, we are therefore trying to support the UN ACLEC's call for debt forgiveness for the Caribbean, and to also look at better ways to be able to address resourcing under the Green Climate Fund and the Adaptation Fund, that we can be able to have better access to resources.
Grenada's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell, has given somewhat our strongest hints that the general election, which is constitutionally due next year, is close at hand. Addressing a public meeting on Sunday night, the Grenadian leader indicated that he will most likely call the next general election after the resolution of a pension issue for public officers. A Pension Disqualification Act was made law in 1983, which Prime Minister Mitchell says dealt an uneven hand to public servants. He blames governments, employers and trades unions for not dealing with the matter sooner. Consultation on the issue is currently being held between the government, trades unions and other stakeholders.
Government go, government come. that issue was never dealt with. And as a country, all of us must take responsibility for this. In other words, the governments of the past, including NNP, will take responsibility. But our people, the trade union movement, the business community, all of us are guilty to some extent and not having dealt with this issue long before. So we are saying as a government, we are working with all the stakeholders to deal with this problem urgently. And we hope and pray that with the consultation taking place, that can be dealt with and a solution can be found, not necessarily finding all the monies necessary to pay, but a solution pointing to the way forward before the next general elections is called.
A 4.0 magnitude earthquake rattled Trinidad on Sunday night. The Seismic Research Center says the quake, which occurred at a depth of 3 kilometers, was felt at 7:06 p.m. local time. It occurred west of Trinidad in the Gulf of Paria and was reportedly felt widely in the country. However, there were no reports of injuries or damage. In Martinique, May 22nd is the date of the commemoration of the abolition of slavery, and this year a plaque was unveiled with the names of the first 100 free families of the commune. As we hear in this special report, some spectators were privileged to find the names of their ancestors on the plaque.
The moment is solemn. The veiled force and the names, forenames, age and numbers of 100 slaves become free are revealed to the public, a moment full of emotion for some members of the audience. Here you see the name of Grandma. I find the name of my mother, Marcus, that of my father, Jemu, and in the presence of my little niece to explain to him how we got there. I have long sought my identity and I was wondering, but who are your ancestors? Because I heard that we became from Benin, and now that there was one of my ancestors which was a slave, something happened to me. This commemorative plaque of May 22, 1848 contains only an extract of the names of the free families. 900 surnames were registered by the officers of the time. To find them, an important work of research has been. With my friends from the committee CM98, based on the document they had published, we look for the name of the inhabitants. So President Serge Romana sent 900 names to me, and from there I looked for the name that there was most representative for the population of today. In Guadeloupe, where the commemoration takes place on May 27th, the city of Les Abymes invites the Guadeloupeans to go back the street of their history through the genealogy. This workshop is aimed at a public who wishes to start his genealogy. So here in Les Abymes, for 7 years, we have studied this work with the committee CM98. Genealogical research is a real adventure that is attracting a growing number of people.
On a constaté un engouement pour la population de venir rechercher leurs ancêtres. Et c'est aussi une des missions du service des archives.
There has been a popular enthusiasm to search for their ancestors, and it's also one of the missions of the Archive Service.
Well, we thank our partners over at France Carré Broadcast for that special report, and we encourage you to join us every Monday for news from the French West Indies. And ahead in Newsline Sport, double Olympic sprint champion Elaine Thompson tastes defeat for the first time this season. Stay with us. Sport is next.
The Sajiko Cahill School of Business and Management invites you to attend Navigating a Path to Growth, a risk and competitive intelligence conference at Hilton Barbados Resort on June 26th and 27th, 2017. Speakers include Global Strategy and Risk expert Dr. Andrea Schotter, Regional PwC Risk Assurance Leader Bruce Scott, Miss Lisa Padmore, Dr. Delisle Worrell, Mr. Ian D'Souza, Professor Patrick Hossain, Professor Julian Marcel, and many others. For more information, call 246-424-7731 or visit www.uwichsb.org. Secure your space today.
the 21st edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival from the 22nd to the 24th of June, featuring Shabba Ranks, Ultimate Rejects, The Boozman, Mobado, Jack Pure, DJ Private Riot, and back together again, Square One. Also performing Third Word, Voice, King Mighty Chalk Dust, Credence Clearwater Revisited, Ed Robinson, Ricardo Drew, Teddyson John, Felicia Ross, Brianna D, Lyrical, and Goo Goo Dolls. For more information, log on to www.stkitsmusicfestival.net.
In a place where legends start, the beach is just the beginning. So live a little for the exhilaration and the color of every moment, where time is and life is a spirited event. Immerse yourself in the culture, the music, the people, the island. Love Antigua and Barbuda. Embrace an experience that leaves you breathless, from cricket to sailing week to carnival and more. Antigua and Barbuda, the beach is just the beginning.
Double Olympic sprint champion Elaine Thompson tasted defeat for the first time this season in the 200 meters at the Prefontaine Classic on Saturday. In the third stop of the IAAF Diamond League Series, the 24-year-old Jamaican never looked the part and crossed the line struggling in a time of 21.98 seconds behind American Tori Bowie, who was dominant in a world-leading 21.77, and Bahamian Sean Miller-Ubu, the reigning Olympic 400-meter champion, who also shocked Thompson to finish in 21.91 seconds. In a star-studded event that also included Dutch sensation Daphne Schipper and American Allyson Felix, Bowie once repeated her victory from last year. She produced a blistering curve to leave the field in her wake, and the result was never in doubt once she entered the stretch. Thompson, who was also third in the event last year, proved sluggish on the bend and was left with too much to do in the last 100 meters. Let's take a look at that race.
Well, away they go. Looking for Elaine Thompson in the purple vest, but Tori Bowie has had a storming first 50 metres. Tori Bowie going very well indeed. Also coming under pressure is Daphne Skippers. Skippers doing very well indeed, but at the moment Thompson is nowhere. Thompson coming back, but it's Tori Bowie who's going to get away with this one. Tori Bowie, who's got the joint lead, gets it. Tori Bowie in lane 7 with Shawnee Miller, would you believe it, in lane 8, the 400-metre specialist. But Tori Bowie has taken this field apart. Elaine Thompson, the double Olympic champion, on her left, made to look very, very ordinary indeed.
Well, it was only last week that Thompson easily won the half lap at the Jamaican International Invitational in Kingston. Meantime, her fellow countryman, Jamaican Omar McLeod, kept up his excellent form as he won the men's sprint hurdles. The Olympic champion extended his great start to the new season when he clocked 13.01 seconds to take top honours. He led a Jamaican 1-2 as Richard Levy powered home second in 13.10, with American Devon Aline third in 13.11 seconds.
Well, away they go. Very good start, fourth from left from Devon Allen, who's looking good at the moment. Well, moving really well is Aries Merritt, third from left. But here comes Omar McLeod, the Olympic champion, beginning to ease away from the rest of them for Jamaica, and he takes it there. McLeod very quick on the run-in.
And in the women's 100 meters, Trinidadian Michelle Liai was third in 10.97 seconds as American Maura Lake, that's Akinoson, crossed the line first in 10.98 seconds. The Guyana Football Federation Congress has passed a motion to investigate the details surrounding Golden Jaguars FIFA World Cup 2014 qualifier against Mexico. The Guyana and Mexico were slated to clash in Guyana at the National Stadium Providence, but the Football Foundation, under its acting president at the time, Franklin Wilson, sold the hosting rights for the game, which was then hosted at the BBVA Compass Stadium in Houston, Texas. The Jaguars went down 0-5 to Mexico. The Fruiters Conquerors Football Club tabled a motion mandating that an investigation be launched into the switch. The motion passed, and the assistance of FIFA and CONCACAF will be sought to unearth the details. No specific time frame was given on when the matter would be resolved, but the Federation says it intends to get the proceedings started in the next 14 days. Still in football, Bermudian striker Naki Wells earned himself a place in next season's English Premier League as Huddersfield Town beat Reading on penalties after a 0-0 draw in 120 minutes in the Championship promotion final at Wimbledon on Monday. Wells rattled in Huddersfield's third penalty as they won the shootout 4-3 after the game ended 0 following extra time as Huddersfield returned to the top flight after 45 years. Huddersfield missed 2 gilt-edged chances early on, and Wells, who wrapped up a Bermuda flag around his shoulders during the presentation afterwards, screwed his shot wide when he well placed in front of goal. In the second period of extra time, Jamaica Gareth McCleary, who came on as a substitute for Reading in the 74th minute, quickly made an impact. He missed from 30 yards but went closer from the edge of the box with a low shot that fizzed just wide as the first period of extra time came to an end. Huddersfield will join champions Newcastle United and runners-up Brighton and Hove Albion in the Premier League next season. The defeat was tough on Reading, which had finished the season third, 2 places above Huddersfield. 2-horse racing, now Barbadian Rockabouin produced a valiant effort aboard Risk Legacy to snatch the feature $50,000 Kent Stakes in sensational style at Emerald Downs in Washington on Sunday. Going off at odds of 7-2, Bowen and the Bay Filly got the better of a serene duel with favourite Aliford Bay and were then forced to pull out all the stops to hold off 32-1. Longshot retreat yourself in the stretch run to reach the wire a length clear in a time of 1 minute 16.80 seconds. The win was Risk Legacy's third in 4 starts, and it handed the 28-year-old Bowen his third win on the 9-race card. And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Ready. It's another episode. When we out on the road, this is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road. Drink, drink, drink.
King Baba and the guitar. Every fact that I go, you keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, 'cause that's my babe. I don't understand how we're in the name tag on me. You know what to say, you still calling me wrong name.
Don't get vexed with me. Don't say that.
In a place where legends start, the beach is just the beginning. So live a little for the exhilaration and the color of every moment, where time is and life is a spirited event. Immerse yourself in the culture, the music, the people, the island. Love Antigua and Barbuda. Embrace an experience that leaves you breathless, from cricket to sailing week to carnival and more. Antigua and Barbuda, the beach is just the beginning.
Chatting CARICOM, a 4-part series on the status of the regional integration process. Your chance to get answers.
We as a small island, how do we factor into that bigger picture?
Why is the process taking so long?
While there is liberty to move among the islands, you still have some level of restriction.
Chatting CARICOM also gives you updates on recent CARICOM projects.
We're seeking more and more to engage all our partners in moving forward for the development of our region.
We have come a very long way since we started.
Join the Caribbean community and CaribVision for Chatting CARICOM, a community for all. May 31st at 8 p.m. Again, the major developments of this day, Adlan McLaughlin set to remain Premier of the Cayman Islands after his party joins forces with the Cayman Democratic Party to form a coalition government. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, log on to KanaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and do have yourselves a good night.